6 o'clock, we'll open the working session. Any citizens out there? Nope. Finance Review Workshop.
Somebody get Scott some documents. Yeah, he's got them. Was this in our documents sent to us by email?
Okay, so the first attachment I will go over is just the regular finance committee meeting portion. That looks like this. So just going over our financials through May 31st, 2025. Our state revenue is at 87% received. Federal revenue is at 71% received. Local revenues, 56% received. Food service, 89% received. Community service, 26% received. And debt redemption, 14% received. Our Title 401 grant, we have spent $77,555.43. Our last draw will happen in July after the June 30th and all the payrolls are posted. Then we're able to draw the rest of our money and update all our expenditures in the MEG site. For our expenditures, our salaries and wages are 79% expended, employee benefits 73% expended, purchase services 90% expended, supplies and materials 63% expended, capital equipment 15% expended, and all other expenses is at 61%. Our year total expenditures by site: food service 87% expended, community ed 72% expended, and debt redemption 100% expended. So looking over this information just came from this Excel file, and just comparing where we're at now to the last 2 years, we are sitting in very good shape. So under budget and even lower than the prior years. So we're looking very good.
So the capital equipment, I assume we're not anticipating going up to 100% expenditure in the next 7 days or anything, or?
No, so that's great. So our year total actually, if you look at our summary of all funds, when we compare our expenses and our revenues, the total revenue is at 71%, $6,653,725.37. Our expenditures are 80%, $7,113,170.53. Our spending variance is a deficit of $445.16. If you look below that, I just included our month-end changes just over the last 5 months. We did go backwards a little bit this past month, but that's just because we had a little bit less revenue than the prior month. So this month we get our large payment from the county. So we actually just received a large check last week and also at the starting of the month. So just in the month of June, we have received $1,559,722.78, which will be receipted in and will show up on our financials next month. We will also receive $308,277.44 from the state. So once we get everything posted in June, we'll have a really good idea next month where we're sitting at. And then we go through the whole audit process and calculate what the state still owes us. And then we won't receive that until October. I did receive our audit engagement letter from Brady Marks today. So I signed it and sent it back. We are going to be audited September 29th through October 2nd.
Does that, that's that same audit that they did here this last year? It
Yeah,
happens every year?
Yep, they come
Okay.
every year. They actually pushed it back a few weeks this year. Pushed it back about 2 weeks. I'm not concerned about it at all. There's such a shortage of auditors that there's schools that get audited in December, January, even after it's due to the state, so.
Okay.
Brady Martz is really fast at getting it put together and done. And they'll open up our online portal where we submit all our information, so we pretty much have everything submitted and ready to go before the audit even starts.
Mhm.
So just keep in mind, it's kind of a slow process too. It takes a good 2 months to complete it.
And this is the state auditing us?
Nope, so it's Brady Martz, it's an accounting firm.
Yep.
But they use the state standards to audit us,
Okay.
and then we submit it to the state.
Gotcha.
Do they do a presentation for us then with the results?
Yes, I believe they did it was it December or January? Yeah, but we have to submit our final UFARs in November. That's due November 30th. And then they provide us the final financial statement and go over that. And that is due to the state at the end of January, I want to say.
We don't get enough federal dollars to have to do that audit.
No.
That's what you're referring to.
I was not referring to any of
Okay.
that, no.
Because there's another audit for
Yep.
federal dollars.
I just remember the audit, but it was like,
Yeah, so
At that time
during
for me.
COVID, we
Yeah.
had a lot more federal dollars, so we had to do a separate audit, just more in-depth of that.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So any questions on where we're sitting at right now as of May 31st? Okay, so next I'll go over the FY '26 budget. So all attachments were sent to the board, and I also provided them today, so we'll go over this portion. So overall, all funds combined, we're looking at a difference of $214,184. This is just a very conservative estimate. I do feel will be much better than that. But with the unknowns coming this year, I just really wanted to be conservative on our numbers. I did provide last year's also, so you can just compare. So on the next page, I have our capital, I'm sorry, I should really just quick go over the enrollment underneath that. So last year, we used an enrollment of 419, no, that's this year. Last year was 415 students. This year I bumped it up to 419. We did finish the year we were between 422 to 426 students throughout the year. So we're still budgeting under that, but we're just being very conservative with our revenue and under budgeting the revenue. Looking at the next page, I did break down our capital expenditures that we're budgeting. We did bump that up. Go ahead.
Before we get off the first page, the ECSC stands for,
Early childhood
Okay.
special education.
that's, that's budgeted for 12 VPK? And so,
We,
okay.
basically, one student is worth less when it comes to revenue, so we under budget. So even though there's probably gonna be 18 to 20, we still budget significantly less based on the formula.
So right now you're sitting at, I think, 17 or 18, right? Okay, okay.
But I think what he's asking, in terms of the formula,
Yeah.
we get less money per student for pre-K kids than we get for a kindergarten. So 12 pre-K, dollar amount wise, is equal to, or I think it was 15 dollar amount wise for pre-K is equal to 12 kindergarten. So in terms of the actual dollar amount associated with that kid, it's less for EC for early childhood stuff.
Okay.
So the formula is a little funky in terms of budgeting.
And it is, so with the VPK revenue is basically mixed into Gen Ed in Fund 1, but we also get school readiness revenue that goes into Fund 4 to help with that specific classroom.
So we actually have 15 kids in VPK, but the only count was 12. Makes sense.
Yep, yep. No, the explanation definitely helps, so I appreciate it.
So we did bump up our capital expenditures this year by about $44,000. So I included that summary. We will be making additional textbook purchases this year. Oh, we are not doing the auditorium lights fire safe curtains. I just forgot to delete that column. But I did budget $5,000 for any building and grounds equipment expenditures, just in case. So even if this year, for this fiscal year, we budget $44,100 in capital expenditures, we still haven't came close to that, but our goal is to spend down the capital expenditures just to help build that unassigned fund balance. So again, that will be the goal next year. Kind of have a plan for what we're going to do, but if we don't spend it all, that's great. We're just going to move some expenditures there. So overall, in the budget, we increased wages by 3%. The health insurance was increased 5% based on the contracts. I included all budget reductions from last year, carried them forward. I also included our new hire wages, and I did budget benefits for each of them just in case they took benefits. And we also budgeted for any resignations or retirements that are occurring this year. I budget severance for 2 employees in both Fund 2 and Fund 4. MOUs that were in place for 2025 have been moved forward to 2026. I also budgeted a new custodial supervisor position of $60,000 with benefits, just because it's something we had talked about and we hadn't decided on, just so we had a good idea what the budget would look like if we did decide to fill that position. And keep in mind, we do not have a CTE teacher next year, so we won't be receiving that revenue. It was about $4,880. The compensatory revenue, I budget $301,722. That was based on the state's what-if model. So it's basically this big spreadsheet where I type in our enrollment, and it has all our information, and there's several tabs on it. And the state basically inputs all our information in it. Jeff brought up the point that the state did make that adjustment. So I'm trying to find where I just put it. There it is. So in 2024, the compensatory revenue was $319,674. For 2025, it was $377,823. We were told it was going to be $301,722 this year, which would have been a loss of $70,000. But Jeff indicated that they did send out a new updated formula after the state agreed on the budget. So it's going to be $337,081. So
$36,000.
36,000 more, not included in this budget, so
Okay.
that's good. But, I mean, that would have been a huge hit if they would have agreed on a little bit more, so.
Only down 40 sections.
Yeah.
And on the very last page, I included our enrollment projection that was based on census data in years to come. So it's basically the same information we went over at our meeting last month, but laid out and adjusted so that I did reduce the expenditures some and tried to tighten it up a little bit more, and I reduced the revenues a little bit more. I just felt that it was overstated slightly. I think maybe the enrollment was a little bit different, but I did use our new projection model also that the state just released in, I want to say it was the end of April, starting of May. So it was a different revenue projection spreadsheet that was used, but over budgeting our expenditures a little bit. So just keep that in mind. We should finish a little bit better than this.
I don't recall, but I remember in previous ones where we've had historical student population start out, okay, it seemed like most years, you start out, say, 40 kids in kindergarten. By the time they hit 12th grade, typically lost 5 kids. Is that a trend that's average? I just want to make sure we're not actually still overstating. I'm glad you're being conservative, but I think we should be more conservative based on historical trends, or?
For looking at the census, then I would say the census should be a little bit high if that tends to be the.
And I don't remember what it is. I remember the spreadsheet, and it went back till, I don't know, the 90s or something like that. And you could just see the trend. And it just sticks in my mind, and I may be remembering it wrong, is that you start with 40 kids in kindergarten, and usually there's 30-some by the time that senior high.
Or do our enrollments out, is there more enrollments out than in? Or, some years you have families moving too.
Yeah, I think the overall general trend for rural Minnesota is declining.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So you're probably right, but it's, it's different cohort groups go through different things. But the overall trend is correct that we do tend to decline, slowly decline.
What you're saying is if we can look at a curve, and we can just, maybe it's a 25-year curve, we can easily look out and project what the percentage is each year we should probably consider.
Yeah.
So we're not looking at year to year, we're
Yeah.
averaging over a longer period of time.
And definitely not faulting anything that you've done here. That's like very conservative, but I do notice there's a trend on maybe having a low estimate to begin with, whatever, it doesn't matter. But that number's carried all the way through to senior high. It's like historically we've always dropped. We always end up with less kids in 12th grade than started in kindergarten. Just
So does the projection now allow you to input that to reduce it a certain percentage as they go up?
We can make manual adjustments for that.
I'll see if I can dig it up too. I mean, I don't mind. I'll dig up my spreadsheet guys had given us the spreadsheet, the data was there, and I kind of went through the data and everything. And that was the trend that I saw, was that it was increasing. If you guys want me to look at it, try and find it again, I can get the data and I'll have to look at it. But just want to make sure you're being conservative, and want to make sure we're being conservative enough.
Any more questions on the budget? Okay, and then I'm also going over some information I received from Jackie for food service. So tonight we're asking the board to approve a food vendor for next year. So Jackie did go out to seek bids, and she received bids from US Foods and Performance. Her note said both bids offered the same or comparable services. Performance came in over $4,000 less on the bid list items. So basically, we take everything we've ordered from the past year and send that information, and we have them rebid what we had already purchased. And she said Performance came in less. She said Performance prices for commodity delivery was also less than US Foods by $2 per case. Performance has no charge for storage of commodities monthly, while US Food charges $1 per case for storage. She would like to recommend going with Performance next year instead of US Foods. We have the opportunity to contract for up to 5 years, and we can discontinue anytime with a 60-day notice. Another thing she did mention was that with US Foods, it's gotten so big where she doesn't feel she has as good of communication with her representative as she used to. Everything is online based, so she said just trying to talk to someone can be difficult. And she said with Performance, the rep has stopped by several times. She's ordered from them before. He's been great to work with. She said that the deliveries are about the same. Twice a week? But she said twice a week, so she said there's really no change on that. I think US Foods even has a delivery charge while Performance didn't. But that may have been included in that price.
They had never contracted with them before?
No.
When you say, maybe I should know what this is, but when you say storage fee, $1 per case for commodity, what's commodity? What are we talking about? Are we pre-purchasing stuff and they're storing it for us?
Basically, extra food that we get for free, right?
Yeah,
Or
the states
different
that-
food we get from the government, I want to say.
Okay,
Yes.
so something anyways,
And we get to pick. So they're like, oh, you get to pick out X amount of food. And then, so we get to choose that. A lot of times I found that US Foods they give you a commodity list that you get to pick and choose from.
Okay.
And a lot of times they don't even have what you want. And then they'll deliver it a couple months later sometimes.
oh, sure. They go up to a 5-year contract. What's the advantage of going 5 years versus 3 years? Is there?
That's a good question. I do not know. But she did say we can get out of it at any time.
I think the contract is set.
It may help with pricing. That's the only,
I think the pricing is.
if we
Yeah.
say that, hey, we're going to try you for 5 years, it gives them more of just a commitment to be able to rely on us.
But then you have the 60-day, like, if it's like, yeah, you're not working out.
And you might not know this, but, I don't know who would know this, but what are the other neighboring schools using for theirs? Are they all US Foods, or are they using?
I know
the others?
Roseau uses US Foods, Badger and Greenbush both use US Foods. The hospital uses US Foods. So I think they have a lot of deliveries up here. I don't know about Performance.
Where do they own it?
Maybe
I guess we're the truck. We got pretty sure the US Foods one comes out of Grand Forks, but
It does. Rogers, Minnesota. The way Jackie made
Okay.
it sound like, they have more on the Iron Range, so they come up that way, while US Foods comes from Grand Forks.
Okay.
And when I talked to her about it, she said it didn't necessarily come down to money, even though performance did come out better. It also comes down to just how they operate and meeting your needs, and she just didn't feel US Foods was doing as well as they used to.
And we don't have a lot to go on and to figure out if the new company would meet her needs, right? But
Right.
what she's suggesting is, hey, it's worth a try.
Yeah, so that was her suggestion.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it. I
It
will,
might also boost into US Foods too. Some competition.
What do you think, Jeff?
I would go with Jackie's recommendation. She's been working with the company.
So,
she's been doing it for a long time.
help me understand as we get near the end of June here, how does that work? When would the contract begin? Do we know that, or as far as? would it
Starting of
be
the school year.
Starting, okay.
Yeah.
And are we in some kind of a contract with US Foods that we'd have to be getting out of, or no?
No, because we're required to seek bids every 3 years. So we don't have a contract.
Mhm.
They wanted us to give them more notice, but they can't require it.
Okay. So what would, for as far as a final decision on that, what would we be looking for from the board and when?
We would like approval tonight, so
Okay.
that way she can let the vendors know, because she'll start ordering supplies in August for the school year.
Do you know if she's made any contact to any other schools that's used this company before?
that would be my only reservation.
That's-
We use it for next school is like it.
Well, it's just, or if this company doesn't normally do schools, and this is whole thing new, and, I mean, that's just my only thought is, I really feel like if she was to maybe make a phone call or two and find out, with the new company, what other schools you operate with, and just have a call and make sure they're not running into some major issues. I mean,
And I bet Jackie really could answer that question tonight, but she's not here.
yeah. Because I think it sounds great. And does the board sign the contract then? How do we enter into that obviously, we don't have a contract in front of us to sign, but we could make a decision to go ahead and move forward with the contract process and bring it to us?
Sooner, I assume, once we approve it and it's official, then they'll send us paperwork and I'll sign it, or Jeff will sign it, or Scott
Well, and
will
it's-
sign it, or somebody will sign it.
So, I mean, I think we should move forward with that process, and getting that contract here. But I just think in the meantime, I think it'd be smart to make a couple phone calls, because we're not gonna be able to sign a contract tonight, right? All right, Jeff, what are your thoughts you have?
Same
All right, we're gonna go back to trust the professionals that she did due diligence with.
And
Yeah.
Shocking.
I don't believe
She's
we
not
sign a
gonna just-
contract. I mean, even with milk
You
beds.
just put orders in.
Like, we're required to seek bids, and we're required to have board approval for bids. I don't know if there's necessarily a contract.
Actually, on a much smaller scale, when I was managing the theater, actually used 2 different suppliers, so
Mhm.
you could maybe use US Food still if she really wanted to.
Yes, actually, she can.
Yeah.
So this past year, she used US Foods was the main, and then whatever US Foods didn't have, she would go through Performance. So it would
Okay.
probably almost be like a flip-flop.
All right, well, that
So we
makes me
already
a
have
lot more
experience.
comfortable as far as just having that backup of something, yep. Yep. Okay,
From what I understand too, is that from Chris Piper, is that the costs that he gets is much less than what we do in school from the same truck.
Chris, meaning this hospital?
Fine.
Well, probably has to do
Are
with,
they involved with USDA or?
Yeah, I'm not sure,
Well,
Government prices versus
Yep.
private industry.
exactly. Okay,
We just want to round circle there.
I would trust Jackie.
well, I appreciate that we have that option of using the other one to supplement it too, and that's, yeah.
I'll leave this, if anyone wants to review. This is what they both sent.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right. School forest. Anybody here on the school forest?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeremiah are both on it.
The parcels
Was it our
got
last-
passed.
Yep, we got the certificates for our two new school forests, the 40 acres, and how big is the other one?
I think about 40.
Both 40?
The south.
The south, yeah, the south 40 and the shed.
DNR shed.
So those are the two pieces have been officially named as, school forest property now. There was some discussion about where items are going to be stored. I mean, there's just a lot of
Miscellaneous things.
miscellaneous shopkeeping stuff that we
Jeff,
dealt with.
This isn't soon-to-be Scott's office.
There's lots of
The,
them there. No, they've got the skis out of there.
Yep, and then talked about the shed out here, or the shelter, getting that repainted or done more of like a natural color. And then also seeing if North Star would be willing to come out and tap down into the ground to be able to anchor it down with some of the stuff that they have, to be able to anchor it down so it doesn't blow away again. Then the DNR has an intern that is going to be working out in the forests for us and doing some different miscellaneous things out in the woods, and whether it's clearing out stuff or making the paths better or whatever it would be like that. And then talked about planting more trees, and then also talked about there's a chemical that is environmentally safe to be able to use to get the cattail and some of the other brushy stuff to go away out there, but it doesn't affect anything in the ecosystem or anything like that. So talked about doing some of that. But then it was a lot more of the different day-to-day stuff that we would be doing out there over the summer and things like that. I think there was a possibility of having like some evening having a midnight walk or a night walk through there or whatever it might be. So some of those things we can do in the community.
Didn't we have,
Evening mosquito tea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
didn't we have a
Beat them.
discussion too about doing like a tour, like a board tour?
Yep.
But then there again, I think I recommended that we wait till the fall.
Yeah. After the first frost.
Yeah.
But then going out to the different plots that we do have of the school forest, that we can all be out there and see them. And what they're doing with them. And then we also talked about how to get to the different school forests, who goes where and how we can get kids out there and get them involved in different things out in the woods.
So that way all the parcels are being utilized.
Yep.
Because that's,
Most of them are fairly accessible except that one in the middle of nowhere.
the one that's north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not school forest.
Is that the only one that we're paying taxes on still now?
No, there's a few others. Off the top of my head, I don't. I'd have to dig them up. But that one's like $400 a year between taxes and the ditch assessment.
Because the other ones, the actual, correct me if I'm wrong, the school forest ones that were taxed, now that's been fixed,
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
And we'll go into the superintendent's report.
Okay. So I just have a few, I don't have an enrollment, so I don't have any kids in the building, so that's the report there. A few staffing updates. In the packet for action tonight, hiring Heather Northrup as the main office secretary. She's currently one of our custodians, so she's going to stay on the summer crew through August. And I think her start date is on August 11th. And so we welcome her to that new role. We have some retirements. Lisa Beckstrand, pool coordinator. I know Sam has that on her agenda. But 27 years at the district here. So all those years of service, thank her for that. And also Jackie Pearson, 24 years working for the district. So wish them both well on their retirement. Also for action tonight, and there's right up in the work packet, seasonal mowing salary increase proposal. It's about $250 to $300 increase, and there hasn't been a salary increase in over 2 years here, so right in that proposal. Referendum update. There's a resolution calling an election to authorize issuance of school building bonds and to approve the capital project levy authorization. So that's in there. I did include the sample ballot question, or the actual ballot question, which when I read through it, I was very happy with it. So it's very specific. It's got the projects on there. A lot more readability than the last time we went through that, so that was good. Yeah, I read through that. Review and comment was submitted on June 13th. We should hear back from MDE sometime in late August, usually. Notice of filing dates for election to the school board, and this is for District 6, August 12th deadline. So you'll need to make sure that's on the July board meeting, for that filed. That would be, Jill's done that in the past, so. And then, Pete Martin at Kennedy and Graven is working on the comprehensive election packet. And that'll have more details of the timelines and various resolutions, documents, and stuff that we need to continue as we move towards the election time. Any questions on any of that? So as we're transitioning, I'll make sure Pete gets Scott's and Jill's emails so that that information is flowing to them, as well as the people at Krause Anderson and others that are working with the district. So the last thing I have is just want to thank the school board and the students and staff for being in school. It's been a wonderful time, and we miss it here. Looking forward to the new adventure. And I want to wish Scott, the school board, and the district good luck and best wishes. And I'm still invested in the district, so I'm still living in the community, so I'm here to help. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. So since we know the years of 24 and 27, you're at
Next year would have been 30. I made it
30?
to 29.
29.
Yes.
So congratulations, that's a
Thank you.
thank you.
Mary's not here, right? Anyone step in for Mary, or?
I can read off her thing. Don't ask me any questions.
Sure. Ask you no questions, you'll tell us no lies.
She's listed credit recovery, 31 students, grades 6 through 11. I'm assuming that's through the summer camp, through targeted services. Because there is a section there that they do the credit recovery recovery. Also for summer camp, they had 85 to 100 students in grades K through 7. Activities included baking, art, social skills, and team building, math and reading, games, STEAM science activities, and using the school forest and pond. And swimming the last week, an outdoor day planned for this week. I'm not sure what that means, but they're done. That would have been last week, I'm guessing, that's what Chip is thinking, so.
That's close to about 50% of our elementary kids.
Yep,
are
it's
participating.
always had really good luck since, I mean, we've been doing it since, I want to say 2012, 14, somewhere in there. It's been at least 10 years that we've been doing it. And we're at 90 to 100 kids on a regular basis. Good program, lots of fun. Speaking of, sometimes we've actually had the kids go out into the pond and pull up some of the cattails and stuff. So they enjoy doing it, but they don't enjoy it when they come back into the building because the custodians don't. And she is, why she's not here, she's at her Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals Conference this week. And she's working on updating for approval at the July board meeting the elementary and high school handbooks.
Credit recovery, is that just 9 through 12 or what?
6 through 11. 6 through 11. Any that they're behind on credits and stuff, or not passing some classes and stuff. So. Okay.
And I guess that leaves Sam Lyon.
Okay, let's see if we can get this back on. Okay, while we're waiting for that, actually, let me just do this first. I moved the order of operations around a little bit on my sheet, so it's all the same there, just might be in a different order. Okay, we hosted on May 30th, Friday, May 30th, we hosted the section track meet. Included 25 schools, about 200 athletes, 120 volunteers, which was a major undertaking in terms of making sure everybody knew what they were doing, as well as then I think upwards of 600 to 650 fans of associated athletes. So a huge undertaking. A note about track, I am not a track person by trade, so I was learning a lot. Track is like taking a hockey game with all of its specific rules and volunteers and then adding 4 or 5 others, things happening around it, right? So you got your running events, field, jumping, throwing, all of pole vaulting, all of those things. So it went really smoothly. We were very excited. We had food trucks from local establishments, New Moon, Northern Bites Catering, Sarah Luchek Foods all showed up. It was a great way to highlight them as a community establishment, as well as kind of take the pressure off of us in terms of concessions. You know, volunteerism, I put a letter to the editor in the paper about it. Really cannot say enough thank you to people who showed up out of the woodwork, both school employees and non-school employees, track kids. The baseball team showed up to be the hurdle crew, so we're in the infield, the football field all day, moving those hurdles and setting them to the right heights and the right weights, and really just very appreciative of the community to show up and make that happen, because it would not have happened had we not had the volunteers there to do it. So, excited about that. The highlight of the day is that Miss Kaylee Piper was the Section 8A champion in the 100-meter hurdles, so quite excited for her. She went on to the state race 2 weeks ago, or last week. Time is weird in the summer. 2 weeks ago? We had a great, you probably heard 2 weeks ago. You heard the sirens going through town. She had a great send-off. The rest of her relay team went with her down there to cheer her on, so she had quite a crew, which was fun. Yeah, so that's an incredible experience for her, and obviously we are incredibly proud of her showing up. Fun to have a kid win a race at your home. I'm getting goosebumps about it, right? At your home meet when you're putting on an event like that, so really proud of her. And she's a 10th grader, right? So there's some years, we also have, like, there was some other showings of other students, Ava Hack in particular, who have years ahead of them in terms of excitement on that front. So we've got a bright future in track ahead of us.
That was Kurt Storbeck's last.
Yes, last hurrah. So we just had our
too.
track, Kurt Storbeck just retired formally. And so a proud moment, I think, for him
Yeah.
in terms of being able to show off the community in that way. A little on the finances about that. So the way that an event like that works is that we spend all the money and take in all the money, and then all of that gets tracked and sent to the region. So anything we take in tickets goes back to Region 8A, Section 8A, the administrative region that runs our sports for the State High School League. Any expenses we incur, I track, and then we get reimbursed by Region 8A. So it's technically a wash, quote unquote, for us. Now, having said that, we put a lot of work for the last, 18 months into making sure that that facility is ready. I mean, it's a high level activity. You got to make sure your shot put, thanks to the maintenance staff for making all of that happen, your shot put lines are right and your jump pits are long enough and all of this stuff. We did charge about $2,000 in facility use fees to the region. So we are, and that is covering anything from mowing to toilet paper to, time that our maintenance staff has put in to make that event run well. So the school did make, quote unquote, about $2,000 in facility use fees. And then we had a t-shirt vendor, Northwest Designs. They give us 20% of their sales. And so that was a little over $2,000 also. So it is not by any means, that's why these postseason things are kind of hard as for schools, is because they're not a money maker for us, but did want to make sure that we are not losing money and being reimbursed appropriately. So if you see your track supplies expenses are way over budget, that's why we're running that through the school, but that is getting reimbursed. Any questions on that? Okay. Summer activities, community ed stuff, we got T-ball, rookie ball. We have a 10U and a 12U kind of combo softball team. We are running 10U, 12U, and 16U baseball. TJ Frericks is doing a great job at organizing a lot of he does the older travel ball team organization. I run the younger kids. I'm grateful for his time and energy this time of year. We got swim lessons going on as well as open swim. And then this is in August, but this is also a community ed thing. We'll do the Missoula Children's Theater Summer Theater Camp. And I'll remind you that that is getting paid for this year by a $5,500 Region 2 Arts Council grant. So excited that we are not spending any money on that. Pre-K update, we talked a little bit about, at this point we have 18 students confirmed, 17 of which are VPK eligible, one is not, based on age. That could change, right? Things happen in terms of families decide to move, or families, it's a little, because it's an optional program, we inevitably have a little bit of movement. I hope it'll be that, but with Nicole Gates starting, you might have families choose different options. I did gently press people that I wanted a commitment by June 15th. For me, that is, if we have a wait list, then I can, push people in if that's the case. So I am also getting our room approved through the state as a child care facility so that we can receive child care assistance program funds from the state. That will come into play for two things. One, the $100 flat fee per month that families are paying. All of those 17 VPK kids will pay $100 a month of flat fee. And then the one who is paying the $160 a week could be, I don't know, but could be eligible for that CCAP funding if they apply through the county. And that is a check cut to us from the county, a check cut to us directly. Any questions on that? We're a little bit stagnant. We did have our pre-K roundup. Nicole did a great job at introducing families to the room and to the process. Mary took the little ones and did parachute games in the gym. So trying to make it a good, getting them excited for the start of it.
What's the max number we can have in the VPK program again?
20.
It is 20. Okay.
We currently have 15 slated spots for VPK. We are hopeful, because we filled all of them last year, that we'll get an additional 5.
And we're at 17 kind of confirmed, so when do you go ahead and, do we have to ask for those additional ones?
Yep, in October.
You have to wait, okay.
Yep. It's a redistribution program. So they
Yep.
say, okay, you got 15 initially, which we've been confirmed on already. And then in October, once all of the enrollment is kind of solidified, they go back out to people and say, okay, if you need more, put an application in. And my point is, because we filled a full 20 last year, I am hopeful we will get that again. It's kind of a historically based thing.
And maybe you don't know this, but do we have any updates on Bright New Beginnings as far as their enrollment or anything, how things are going there?
No, I haven't. Nicole and I have been in contact about logistical things. We were going to try and coordinate a little bit on lists, just in terms of who's committed here, who's committed there. Having said that, I mean, a family could choose to, if they're confirmed with me, then they could say, never mind, I'm going to go to Nicole Gate, I'm going to go to Bright Beginnings next door, September 1st, so.
And something like that could even happen even during the year, during the school year, right?
Yep.
As long as there's availability on it.
Yeah, on either side.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, good. Pool update. Lisa B is retiring. She was in the pool when I was a swimmer here, and we had a girls swim program. Her daughter Katie and I graduated from high school together, so I am excited for her and also a little sad to see her go. So if you see her around, you take your kids to the pool, tell her thank you. She's been a great asset to the district for many, many years. Alongside that, we are not voting on this pool wage proposal. This is an extra document I put in front of everyone. We are not voting on this tonight. This is a proposal that I just am putting forward as I think I'd like to do this. I would like to check in with Scott before, just in terms of big picture pool stuff, namely Lisa's position as well. I think we've got some decisions to make about how we fill her position. That is, for me, one of the kind of top priorities as you start, just because she'll be done in September. That person is going to need to get lifeguard certified, WSI certified, and it will impact things like gym swim time and special ed swim time, which have become major staples of both of those programs. So, like I said, this, I think, is a good deal. We need to be thinking about how we're retaining our lifeguards, both students and adults. The thing I like about this is that it's an increase every year. You complete being a lifeguard or a water safety instructor, but it does require you to commit a certain number of hours worked over that time. So you can't necessarily just be a certified lifeguard on our roster and then not work and get the increase. So I've identified some hourly benchmarks that I'd like to get. I also, and I will hopefully have this for you for vote in July, would like to do some retroactive pay for this. Lisa Beckstrand has taken up the morning swim charge in her quiet, heroic way, in that we do not have enough adult lifeguards to make that morning adult swim, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 to 8, feasible. So she's done it outside of her contracted hours. So she's a little bit of an incentive on that, but I do think that this in general is a way to think about incentivizing longevity for our lifeguards. So I would say, as opposed to just because we have this is, I think, going to be more pressing or interesting, I would say take a look at that. Let me know what you think. Scott and I will talk more about this in relationship with the pool in general, but that's on my docket. Okay. Would somebody mind getting one of the front lights so that we can see this? Okay, so I have to submit to the State High School League every year. I have to submit a participation activity. They ask me to track total involvement, both per sport and then unduplicated, how many kids are actually involved. So I figured this would be good information for you to see. I am also meeting regularly with our athletics community ed committee this summer. this was a request from them to see some overviews on participation. We are talking about some Minnesota State High School League changes that are coming up, and I want them involved and in the thick of it. It has to do with insurance and 6th grade participation and 9th grade involvement, all of that. And so then they're kind of on the journey with me this summer, and we'll have something for you at the end of the summer to kind of more formally present. It might be a special working session. Scott and I can talk more about that as we get there. So I put my activities in 2 categories. Co-curricular is connected to a class, choir, band, visual arts, and then there's extracurricular, which is outside the school day, knowledge bowl, 1-act play, sports. You will see these 2 words in the data that is coming up. This is a distinction that helped me kind of start piecing through data to present to you. These are the sports activities we offer, and the teams that are underneath them, junior high varsity, is what we offered this past year. So boys basketball, we had 1 junior high team, a JV team, and a varsity team. Girls basketball, on the other hand, we had a 6th, 7th grade team, an 8th grade team, and a varsity. No junior high, or no JV. We did not have a JV varsity, or JV hockey team. So that's what we offered. This special note in small print on the bottom is, in 2006, my graduating class, Lake of the Woods, offered 12 sports. We now offer 10. We no longer have girls swimming or girls hockey, both of which I participated in. And as a note, the 2006 graduating class was 70 students. This year's was 35. So we are at half the number of students with nearly the same number of sports being offered. And what you've seen as a loss in teams is not necessarily a loss in sports, but it is a loss in middle teams. We have less C teams, we have less JV teams, less junior high teams. So we've maintained the sports themselves, but one might argue that we're having students make bigger jumps in competition within those sports. So, okay, so these are just totals. Gives you a concept of how many students we're dealing with. When I say unique participants, if a kid plays football and a kid plays baseball, they are only on here once. So this includes homeschool and Rainy River. It also includes co and extracurricular. So it's the biggest filter that we have. We're talking about 185 students. I'm going to move through some of these pretty quickly because they're just, you can look through them and ask more questions if you have them. But like I said, we're starting big and broad. Now let's just talk extracurricular. It's 172 students total. Again, includes homeschool and includes Rainy River. And then you got obviously breakdowns between gender and grade. So this is where, in terms of my purview, what my job is, I'm thinking, I should be clear, between my purview and your purview, this is, I think, the students we want to think about. Extracurricular participants that are Lake of the Woods students only. Does not mean I don't care or love our homeschool or Rainy River kids, right? But in terms of what we have control over in terms of recruitment and in terms of kind of focus, most intentional focus, this is the crew. So 159 students. Broken down by grade and gender. So, yeah, go for it.
Maybe I missed it, but is this just this past year? Or
yes, yep,
okay,
this is just 2024,
okay.
2025. Yep. So these, I think, are going to be the most, sink your teeth into numbers. So we're on the table, percentage of participation. So this is total extracurricular and Lake of the Woods students only. Gives you a concept of how many are in this is a singular activity, singular extracurricular activity. So if a kid isn't just in Knowledge Bowl, they are on this list. If they are only in choir, they are not on this list. That make sense? Okay. I actually am relatively pleased with these numbers. It means that in our 8th grade class, we have 83% of our students are in an after-school activity. To me, that means quality. When I say an after-school activity, they're engaging with A team mentality, positive peer relationships, positive adult relationships outside of a classroom. I think that's great. We get definitely lower in our 11th and 12th grade grades. I think that's generally normal because kids start to filter out in terms of, or focus, I should say, in terms of their sports, in terms of their interests. You're also starting to compete with things like work. We lose a lot of kids to work. They are feeling the pressure to make money, for sure. So this is the breakdown. The next page is breakdown between males and females. I look at 10th grade females. You got 91% of those girls are participating, which is great. That's one girl who is not in an after-school activity. Boys side, 6th grade, we got 92% of those kids are participating in something. This is where I think we start to see, this next is the stats on multiple activity participation. So this is where I think we start to see some real opportunity. You could say also, that's Sam being the positive poly. You could also say, like, this is where we start to get a little less great in our numbers. So you'll note the asterisks, and this is a note I was going to make at the end, but I'll do it here. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade does not, because those kids are playing youth hockey, which is a different organization, I cannot count them in my numbers. So when you say 31 to 30% or 42 and 42 in the 6th and 7th grade percentages, that's a reflection of there are a lot of, and I know this just based on those kids, there are a lot of hockey players in those groups. So if you were to add youth hockey in those numbers, you would see those numbers jump. What's interesting is the 63% here is you got more basketball players who are a part of a junior high sport. I can count them, right? So there's some of this is like slightly incomplete data in the way that, just the way that our stuff is structured. So let's say, so we're looking, I would say more so at the 9th through 12th grade. 50% of our kids, 50-50, 38 and 17% of our 12th graders are in more than one sport. To me, that's a real big red flag. One that we're not, something's not happening. Whether we're not retaining them appropriately, whether, I don't know. That's a big note to me, that we're losing significant participation as they get older. This next one includes co-curricular. So it's not that it's not that I discount music and art by no means, but it is an activity associated with a class. So it's a little bit of a different relationship with how those students interact in the after-school hours. And this, if we go back one, this does include your one-act play, which is structured much more like a sport, right? So this, and knowledgeable. Again, you're practicing after school, you're traveling to competitions, things like that. They do that in music, right? You're going to BGMR for a solo contest, or, we host contests all the time, at least probably once a year for ensemble, solo, or large group. So again, it's not that doesn't count, but it's a different relationship when you're doing it for some credit. So, okay, so I'll just finish with some notes. Things like, many students are involved in activities outside of the ones that I listed initially. And those are things like boys and girls youth hockey for 6th through 8th graders. I notice a big hole because I don't count those students. Figure skating, similarly, a lot of girls, although I think there's a couple boys in there too, in figure skating. Trap shooting is huge. There are a lot of kids in trap shooting in the spring, which is great. They should be, they're really capable at it.
And is that MSHSL or no?
We do not. We have chosen to not run it State High School League affiliated here, and that was Bob Lane's preference. There are schools who do it more connected than the way we do it.
I just couldn't remember if it was.
It's not formally, but it's like there's a different category for it as like a adjacent activity or something. My thought, we've talked about letting them letter. So we have set up a situation with figure skating where folks can letter for figure skating, but they're not technically a state high school league, but they follow all the same rules.
Right.
So there might be some middle ground there where we choose to bring trap shooting on. Just for Kicks is another one. I mean, that's, Lucy said she had 80 kids in Just for Kicks last year. Now, there's some really, really, really small ones in that, but I think 80 kids, that's a huge number, and that is all year long. They're starting September and going to late April. So while we may look at numbers like this, extracurricular, Lake of the Woods, and you're like, oh man, only 52% of our kids or 38% of our kids are in more than one activity. Chances are they're involved in other places. It's just not that they're involved in our stuff. Does that make sense? Doesn't mean I look at that 17 number as like really glaring to me in terms of the work I do. We got to think intentionally about why is that so low. Okay, so then opportunities, I think about retention, focusing on keeping students involved throughout junior and senior years. Multiple activities, really pushing. All activities are aided by multifaceted athletes. You will be a better volleyball player if you also play basketball. That's not only in just general strength and stamina, but it is actual muscle development. You are developing different muscles so that you're stronger, but you're also able to get through injuries quicker, all of that stuff. So those are the things on my mind in terms of what do I do differently from looking at this data? So
one thought with that,
Yeah.
like 17%, do you think of like that grade starting junior high sports during the pandemic?
Ding, ding,
would
ding,
have
ding.
been, like,
Yes, 1,000%. That's
'cause I mean,
totally,
their start to sports would not have been normal.
yeah, that's totally anecdotal, Sam scheming at her desk theory, but yes, I think you're right. That especially the junior and senior class right now, or this past year, lost out on some really pivotal developmental moments when it came to starting their sports. Because, and there are folks here who can remember more specifically how you handled the COVID stuff, but there was limited varsity and older student activities, but I don't think junior high and for sure community ed had the same access during COVID. I mean, I think that was the stuff that fell off for the sake of safety, don't get me wrong, but so now we think of, okay, are those the kids that are now coming through that didn't get the 5th and 6th grade basketball in a way that they like got hooked?
Right.
Let me ask the kids.
I just remember it being like
We could.
super restricted to like areas that you could play. I coached volleyball in Pillager at the time, and I just remember it was like you were in your like immediate conference games. That was it. No like
Yeah.
extra outside
Yep.
stuff.
And you had to wear a mask inside. And again, there's no commentary in that. I think what we're seeing though is a potential impact of that. Yeah, it's a great question. I do not have a formal student feedback gathering mechanism. I have thought a lot about it. I have not implemented it because it's something I'm a little nervous about, to be honest.
I don't think the kids would know.
You don't think so?
No, not from that age. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
They're a senior now, but when they went through it, did that affect my sports?
Yeah.
I doubt they would put that connection together if it was.
And maybe that's a takeaway though from this data. We say, okay, we got to do some information gathering about how are students choosing to come out or not again the next year. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I, again, admittedly don't have a formal feedback mechanism for students, but I think it's a worthwhile thing to think about. It has to be done well, and you have to do it across the board. Like, I'm not a huge fan of saying, oh, this didn't go well, so now we're going to ask kids how it went. You got to do it across the board. It's got to be consistent, because then your data's consistent. So.
Do your numbers up here, do they include stats from the kids who finished the year in that sport, or are they just enrollment? I wonder what the dropout is, if it was just on number of kids that signed up. I would
Yeah.
segue
I
that
can-
to, I think.
I can
think
answer
the-
that.
I think, okay.
So I took it based on year-end rosters. So I correct my year-end, my rosters as the season goes on. So it's a year-end roster. So it's who finished the year.
I just wonder where the numbers would be compared to who, how many sign up. I think coaches might be a good place to start too, just their general understanding about
Yep.
what causes, maybe if it was me, I'd probably complain about I got too much homework.
Maybe.
When you look at the junior and senior year too, when the kind of pressure starts to go on too, right?
Honestly, if I'm speculating, I would say work. If we're looking at just the junior and senior, I mean, that's the one I hear most. Now, is it an excuse or is it true? I don't know. I do think there's truth in it, though. There's a lot of pressure for kids to make money. And whether that's paying for college or whether that's paying for a car, that's very, very common for them to say, I'm going to take this season off, or I am only going to focus on one sport because I want to work the rest of the time. We struggle generally with summer involvement in kids as well, like getting kids to show up for summer ball, summer volleyball, summer basketball, and a lot of that is work too. Like summer's my season to work, so I'm going to work as much as I can.
Didn't Coach Ferricks get his bus?
Yeah.
So he could go pick up kids to be as well.
So TJ has, because it's run through community ed and that's how we're paying for it, but he has gotten his minibus license. And so he is picking kids up for those who can't get to the school. He's picking kids up to do practice and things like that. So, any other questions? There's no, the athletics and community ed committee will look more deeply at this and have this on hand to kind of refer to. It will help us with the 6th grade and 9th grade eligibility questions that the State High School League is kind of chewing on, so to speak. So that's why that and my year-end report is what prompted this, but it will be a good practice for me to get into to do this for you every year. So. Great. Any other questions? Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good thing we didn't mess around. We'll close the working session, or unless somebody's got anything else. Going once, going twice. Close the working session. Anybody need a break before we move into the main meeting? Find my cheat sheet. We'll go into call meeting to order at 7:13. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion and a second to approve the June 23rd, 2025 meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by A. Johnson,
Second by Hack.
second by Hack. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any board presenters? Written communication. New business. We need a motion and a second to approve the May 19th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes and the special board meeting minutes of June 9th, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Severs,
Second by Hack.
second by Hack. In discussion, within the discussion, we will make note that which meeting was it? Must have been the 9th, right? The special board meeting? Okay. We'll make note that item 7H, approve resolution 2024/2025-36, accepting a donation of $1,500 memory of Dan O'Connell for the community education softball, and that was passed and approved.
Correction, it was the regular board meeting, the May one. Yes, sorry.
Okay, was at the regular board meeting on May 19th. Any more discussion? All in favor?
To make sure I got that in the article at the second bullet point.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve the invoices, financial statements, bank reconciliation, wire transfers, and purchase card statement.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Kate Johnson,
Second by Hack.
second by Hack. Any discussion?
Give me a second here. No,
Okay.
no. I'm just looking at some of my screenshots here, but
All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of personnel appointments. I need a motion and a second to approve the following resignations and appointments as presented. Appointments: Heather Northrup, main office secretary. Retirement: Jackie Pearson, head cook, and Lisa Beckstrand, pool coordinator.
Motion by Hack.
Motion by Hack,
I'll second.
second by Severs. Any discussion?
Question.
No.
Can you go over the years of service again for Jackie Pearson and Lisa Beckman? I might have got it wrong.
I want to say it was
24, 27.
nope. Just thank you
Yep,
for
thank
the
you,
years of
Jackie
service.
and Lisa. Be hard, tough shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I need a motion and a second to approve resolution 2024/2025-37 appointing Scott Fitzsimmons superintendent as identified official with authority, Iowa, and Tracy Cook, district assessment and MARS coordinator, to act as the proxy, Iowa, to add and remove names only for Lake of the Woods Independent School District 390 effective July 1st, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Severs,
I'll second that.
second by Kate Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve the 2025-2026 school year budget.
Motion by Hack.
Motion by Hack,
I'll make a second.
second by Kate Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to, for approval of the MSHSL resolution for membership for the 2025/2026 school year.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Kay Johnson,
I'll second it.
second by Severs. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve resolution 2024/2025-38, calling an election to authorize the issuance of school building bonds and to approve a capital project levy authorization. I'll make the motion.
Second by Hack.
Second by Hack. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All approves, all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to approve the salary increase for part-time summer mowing staff to $17 an hour.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Kay Johnson,
I'll second that.
second by Severs. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I just, one, we have one staff member that does that? Is this, this is just for the mowing? Okay.
We'll redo that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Need a motion and a second to award the food bid for the 2025-2026 school year to Performance Food Services.
Motion by Hack.
Motion by Hack,
I'll second this.
second by Severs. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any other business?
Item G, who made the motion and second?
Boyd Johnson,
I
Hack.
made the motion, Hack seconded.
Thank you.
Other business, Jeff, thank you for all these years of service to your school,
Yep.
and good luck at future endeavors, and welcome aboard, Scott.
And you guys have been, met a few times and kind of gone over stuff, right? And,
Like I said, I'm close by.
did you, I mean, need anything else from us? I mean, how's,
Okay. Then on that note, at 7:22, we'll adjourn the meeting.
oh,
Turn them on.
my machine has left.